Good day, farmers. My name is Erastus Garuka. I'm the Technical Advisor for Livestock and Rangeland Management in Agribank's Advisory Services. So today we're going to talk about bush encroachment. All right, this is common to everyone that most of the grazing areas in the country are encroached with bush, and then there's different bush species that in different areas as well. So the most common one that we know is Senegalia mellifera, formerly known as Acacia mellifera. We have others like Reficiens, Luedretzi, so there's many of them. So, but the most important thing that we need to understand is that bush encroachment comes as a result of also improper grazing management. So, yeah, remember the productivity of your rangeland in general also depends on the way you are managing it, plus other rainfall as one factor. But your management also plays a big role there in terms of how healthy your rangeland will be. So, talking about bush encroachment, these plants or the woody plants, or in fact maybe a simple definition of bush encroachment is the increase in density of woody plants. Yeah, for example, in this case where I'm standing, this is Senegalia mellifera, or the swarthag, or the Acacia mellifera as it was formerly known. So the simple definition is that it's an increase in density of this particular woody plant in an area. So it's either in an area that it is still existing, but it's now increasing in its density at the expense of other plants, especially the herbaceous plants like the grasses. So, okay, so here is the relationship between plants. Plants also live in competition. Okay, in fact, if you are talking of an ecological balance, biodiversity, every plant should have space, and every plant should also be able to occupy an area. But if one plant takes over or multiplies at the expense of others, then that becomes a problem. There's no balance there. So the reason why bush encroachment is a problem, it can be attributed to different things. One of them is overgrazing. So what does that mean? So you have taken the competitor out, the grass. We have cattle, we have sheep, we have animals that are heavily grazing our grazing areas. So what do they do when they are grazing? When they are taking away grass, then it means they are removing the competitor, which is the grass. So, and then the bush becomes opportunistic, taking over the spaces that were taken over by grasses previously. So that's how they came about. So bush also produce a lot of seeds. They multiply so fast, or they disperse their seeds so much effectively. And again, they are also effective in utilizing the resources such as water and even sunlight and so forth, and soil nutrients. All right. Another factor that contributes to an increase in density of bush or woody plants is the absence of fire as well. You know, naturally, fire also opens up savannas or areas whereby it controls vegetation structures and so forth. So if now you don't have fire, and why don't you have a lot of fires? It's because we don't have the fuel, which is now the grass, which is the one which is supposed to fuel the fire or to ignite the fire. So if we have less grass, then that means there's less fire activity. So meaning the bushes without fire will also continue to multiply. And again, in terms of browsing, naturally, animals like the browsers, like elephants, for example, those are natural bulldozers that can open up savannas or our grazing areas. So now we have less of them in certain areas. So there's no disturbance on this bush, so they just continue to grow. So, and many other factors, but overgrazing has been one of them, in the absence of fire and the browsing pressure. Now, where you have a lot of bush, you will not have a lot of grass. And another problem with bush is that it forms thickets such that the animals, as they are grazing, will not be able to penetrate through. So that again becomes a problem. Animals tend to concentrate only on certain areas or certain grazing areas because that's where they can only access. So other areas they cannot access because they are heavily encroached. So that's why it's very important that if you are controlling bush, at least you have to open up spaces. You have to thin out bush. You don't have to clear. unless you are maybe operating or using biomass for other things like charcoal and so forth. But again, the most important thing, if you want rangeland recovery, your grass recovery, you have to thin out some bush, because bush is also food for other animals. You have wild animals also surviving from the bush, so you don't have to clear everything out. So open up to create spaces for the animals to move around, even for yourself as a farmer to move around your farm when you are walking through your grazing area. And again, to also allow sunlight to penetrate to the to the herbaceous layer. And also when rain comes, rainfall drops should also drop through to the herbaceous layers as well, because bush form canopies like an umbrella. So they also intercept rainfall, they intercept sunlight and so forth. And grasses and all these other herbaceous plants, they require the same resources. So please make sure that you control bush encroachment. So make sure that any method that you are using is also sustainable. And you must also have an aftercare. So people use different methods. Some people use arboricides, some people use mechanical means and so forth. But the most important thing is that if you want your rangeland to continue being healthy, aftercare, after any treatment that you do, please also follow up later, just to, maybe there will be regrowths. Sometimes if you cut some bush, they will regrow in the next season. So what do you do, or how do you treat those regrowths? So that is very important. Aftercare is very, very important. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of different species, but then there are also protocols that you can follow. In terms of controlling bush, you don't just wake up and just start chopping any particular tree and so forth, but you target the problematic plants. But again, you need to follow the right channels. You need to go to the Ministry of Environment and Forestry and so forth to give you the guidance. So yeah, as farmers, we need to remember that the way we are grazing or managing our grazing areas, if it's problematic, it can also create more problems to us. So if you are overgrazing, it's a problem. You will create bush problems. Thank you.